Close the doors, lower the voices, and listen. The ring didn't just go missing, it walked into a storm. A pinky seal in Welsh gold, a crest that once marked the heir and his burden, suddenly off the king's hand and out of sight. One palace insider swears the atmosphere snapped, another says nothing happened at all. In 60 seconds I'll show you the line that rattled courtiers, and why some believe the ring came back across a table with 5 quiet words that changed everything. Stay with me, because what looks like a trinket drama might be the cleanest window into who actually holds the wheel of this monarchy right now. Here's the picture you didn't see on the balcony. King Charles pacing, the old habit of order tugging at him, boxes squared, papers clipped, buttons lined, while a single absence screams. That signet has lived on his hand since the 1970s, a discreet fuse between son and sovereign, the Prince of Wales crest pressed into the soft underside of a lifetime. It's the kind of object the public barely notices until it's gone, and then they can't see anything else. Was it mislaid? Locked away? Lifted? The palace won't say. Off the record, we hear this. He asked questions, many. He watched hours of corridor footage. He quizzed the people who never get quizzed. All the while, the small hollow on his finger felt like a missing note in an anthem. Now hold that thought, because while the king quietly hunts a symbol, a different thread pulls tight. Queen Camilla, gravel-voiced calm, an iron filing under silk, hasn't flinched publicly. No plea for tidings, no visible scramble. Is that composure or calculation? Depends who you ask. Some in the household call it elegance, others call it cold. And somewhere in the middle, whispers Bloom, she's asserting her space, carving her job on her own terms, stepping beyond the shade of consort into a light that says simply queen. If you blinked, you missed the website tweak that dropped the word many saw as a promise to the late queen. Was that a clerical hiccup, or a quiet statement? Ask 3 courtiers, you'll get 5 answers, and none of them on the record. Before we go further, a reality check. Much of what follows lives in that grey royal zone: sources, briefings, soft denials. We are not alleging crimes. We are mapping smoke and asking why the alarms won't switch off. If you believe continuity matters, keep listening. If you think it's just jewelry, you're about to learn why the crown never treats symbols as small. Back to the ring. Its metal isn't the point, its memory is. Welsh gold is the old magic, the stuff they melt into Windsor weddings, a thread from minds to monarchs. And that crest, Prince of Wales, is a passport stamp Charles carried for half a century. Military inspections, broken marriage, the long apprenticeship under a mother who never failed, and then finally the crown. The ring watched all of it. Remove that witness and you don't just misplace a trinket, you cut a thin, vital wire in a system that runs on continuity. What happened next is where the room divides. One version, nothing dramatic, just a sober internal review, a decision to keep heirlooms tighter and the ring out of sight until the noise dies down. Another version, and this is the one setting WhatsApp groups on fire, a confrontation behind a shut door. He speaks first, low and careful. You acted alone. You went public without clearance. You shifted titles without consent. And in the middle of it, the question no one ever thought he'd ask: where is it? She reaches into her bag, places the signet between them, and lets a sentence fall like a weight. What belongs to the king is mine. 5 words, a dozen meanings. Was it bravado? Claim? A dare? Or just the wrong line at the wrong time to a man for whom lines are everything? We can't promise this scene happened word for word. What we can tell you is the fallout looks real enough. Invitations quietly declined. An agenda tightened. A distance noticed by people who have seen too much to be fooled by smiles. You can feel it in the corridors, the hum is different. Meetings shorter. Staff cautious. The comfortable 2-person rhythm that kept the machine humming suddenly a step out of time. There's another thread, and it's just as sharp. Camilla's voice beyond the palace gates. A sit-down with a glossy outlet, warmly lit, friendly. She talks modernization, trimming the working roster, retiring rituals that scan as antique in an age of swipe-left attention. To civilians, sensible. To courtiers, dynamite. Because royal policy isn't a chat, it's a choreography, and the king likes the steps to be agreed before the curtain lifts. Did he approve? We're told he did not. Did it land badly? You don't deploy senior advisors at midnight if everything is fine. This is where the ring stops being a ring and becomes a test. Who gets to define the monarchy, its pace, its language, its skin? The king, schooled on precedence and patience, prefers to bend gently. The queen, battle-hardened by decades of headlines, appears to like boulder cuts. To outsiders it's a marriage, to insiders it's two operating systems trying not to crash the same machine. And every time that signet stays off his hand at a public event, another round of speculation spins. Is it private grief, strategic austerity, or a message only one person is meant to read? Watch the optics. When the king shows without the ring, uniforms sharper, files thicker, there's a studied severity to him, as if to say, the job is larger than the noise. When the queen appears solo, gallery steps, charity lunches, those well-aimed quips that turn scowls to laughter, she looks like a woman who has decided not to shrink. That may be smart. It may also be exactly the friction line that keeps the rumor mills powered until Christmas. There's a temptation to call it palace theatrics and move on. Resist it. Symbols are policy here. That tiny circle of Welsh gold is a message board. Worn, it says continuity, duty, the ghost of a title that made a man before the crown crowned him. Pocketed, it can say, no more borrowed skins, this reign will decide its own costume. Left on a table between two people the world won't let be private, it can say something colder, we share the throne, we do not share the map. And because this is the modern court, politics creeps in at the edges. The slimmed-down dream everyone assumed would define Charles's era now shudders under the weight of illness, absence, and a public that wants less velvet, more value. Camilla's push to cut deadwood could be seen as loyalty to that plan. Charles's insistence on process could be seen as the only way to keep the roof on. The ring sits between those choices like a coin no one wants to flip. There is, finally, the whisper that ties it all together. Some claim the ring never went missing, it was retired. Safer, quieter, sacramental. Wear it again and you tell the world the storm has passed. Keep it out of sight and you let the palace know the weather hasn't cleared. If that's the game, then every bare-knuckle handwave from a Land Rover and every close-up at a state audience becomes a referendum in miniature. The cameras will keep checking. So will we. If you're still here, you've earned the one-line courtiers keep circling in pencil. Continuity is consent. The crown survives because the public keeps saying yes. Lose control of the symbols and you start losing the yes. Maybe that's why a signet the size of a thumbnail can pull two adults with decades of discipline toward a single, quiet clash. It isn't about gold. It's about gravity. We'll leave you with this. Somewhere in a locked case sits a ring that used to live on a hand. If it returns to that finger soon, it will read as truce. If it doesn't, expect more soft-footed withdrawals, more carefully staged solos, and more polite statements that answer nothing. Either way, the crown has told you what matters by telling you nothing at all. If you think the ring is a footnote, you haven't been watching the footnotes long enough. And if you think a king cannot warn a queen, remember, in this house, warnings rarely arrive as words. They arrive as absences.